What's up everyone, this is Ryan from FistFullofPotions.com and I'm here today to review the new Retro Classic controller for the Wii and Wii U. There's been quite a bit of confusion on the internet as to what this controller actually is and if it's any good. I'm here to end that confusion and give you all the facts that you need before you purchase one of these controllers for yourself. As many of you may already be aware, I'm not satisfied with the current support for the Wii U's Pro controller. I just want to play Mario with a traditional control layout. Is that too much to ask for? Enter the Classic Pro Retro Control U Retro Classic Controller, or I guess it's more commonly known on the internet as the Controller Pro U, which has been now renamed to Retro Classic Controller. Developed by Interworks Unlimited, this unlicensed fan service looks like a combination of everything right in controller design, not to mention the awesome throwback Super Nintendo color scheme. So what exactly is this? The Retro Classic Controller is a Wii Classic Controller, a Classic Controller Pro, and a Wii Remote, all in one package. Originally there was confusion as to whether or not this also works as a Wii U Pro controller, due to its misleading information on the box and its name. This issue, however, has been clarified by Interworks and countless testimonials on the internet. It is not compatible as a Wii U Pro controller, which makes this an awkwardly timed Wii Classic controller release. It almost seems like Interworks had originally intended on this being a Pro controller as well, and then something happened to prevent it from working. Licensing? Compatibility? Tech know-how? Who knows, but what we do know is that it's only a Wii Remote and a Classic controller. I'll do a super quick unboxing as there's not much in this box. Obviously I already used it for the review, so the seals are broken, but this is exactly how it looked when I opened it for the first time. You get a 6-foot mini USB cable, which in my case was too short to use plugged into my Wii U from my couch, info on how to use your controller, and the controller itself. And there you have it, unboxed. Let's take a look at the buttons on this thing. You get a D-pad, start and select, Y, X, B, A, 2 analog sticks, a home button, plus and minus buttons, a power button, which also works with the Wii U, L and R, ZL, RL, and 2 speakers. The controller also features an accelerometer and an infrared pointer. You have a sync button on the back, a mini USB charging port on the bottom, and then you have a switch to convert it from a Wii Remote to a Classic controller, as well as a switch to invert the accelerometer. Holding this controller in my hands feels great. It's very comfortable and it fits like a Pro controller or even an Xbox 360 controller. The mini Super Nintendo controller design is aesthetically pleasing, and they even went as far as having concave Y and X buttons, just like the original Super Nintendo, which is a nice touch. I love looking at this controller, and if anything else, it makes a great coffee table centerpiece. It blends a perfect balance of modern and classic, and yet, this is unfortunately where my praise ends and the reality of this controller begins. In theory and in YouTube videos like this one, the Retro Classic controller looks perfect. Once you actually get your hands on one though, you immediately start to notice small details that diminish the experience. For starters, a small gripe, it may not even be a practical one, the triggers are actually just buttons that look like triggers. The reason why I say this is not practical is because none of the controllers this is trying to emulate have ever actually had triggers. That aside, it still feels strange having the placement of the buttons and the buttons feeling like an Xbox 360 trigger, yet they respond like a PlayStation 2 L2 and R2 buttons. The analog sticks are in a smart, comfortable place, however the sticks themselves feel like they're stuck in a bucket of mud. There's a substantial amount of resistance from them, and you don't get that smooth, precise feeling of accuracy that you get from other systems, or even the Wii's nunchuck for that matter. There's also a rough plastic on rough plastic grinding sound that you get when spinning them, which can be nails on a chalkboard, cringeworthy depending on the person. When I first busted this out and started messing with the buttons, I spun the sticks a few times, and my girlfriend looked over at me with a cringe face saying, "Could you please not do that again?" Experiences may vary here, as I personally didn't have any problems with the sound. The D-pad actually feels great until you have to press it. It's very loose compared to other similar D-pads. When playing Mario, I would inadvertently crouch while running because the natural position of my thumb would lay over the down direction. This can be avoided by consciously staying true to pressing forward, but even still, this is the first controller that I've ever had to think about my thumb placement while using. On the flip side, if it had more definition between the directions, this would be a very comfortable D-pad, but unfortunately it does not. Let's talk about the face buttons, Y, X, B, and A. When using a Wii Remote by itself, your main buttons are 1 and 2. A and B are typically secondary functions because of their awkward placement. However, it's worth noting that a Wii Remote does in fact have a B and an A button, which means 1 and 2 are mapped to, that's right, Y and X. I'll just let that soak in for a second. Still not seeing the issue here? Let's use Mario as an example of how this is a problem. When playing Mario with just a Wii Remote, run is 1 and jump is 2. If Y is 1 and X is 2, that means your jump button is the highest button on the controller and your run button is below it, forcing you to have the awkward arthritic claw that I mentioned in my post about the 3DS Virtual Console games. Also, there's an analog stick in the line of fire here as well. This makes playing New Super Mario Bros. U virtually impossible. I mean, you could try holding it this way, or you can try your thumb placement this way, or this way. Even if you find a comfortable way of holding it, you still have the button throw issue. What's the button throw issue? It's exactly what it sounds like. About 50% of each of the buttons throw is dead zone, which means if you just graze the button, it won't take the input. With that said, even if you're okay with the thumb rocker style input, you're going to have a problem getting those quick short jumps to pop if you don't have big giant 6-foot tall man hands. As a Wii Remote pointer, it's kind of strange, but it works just fine. The infrared responds to the sensor bar and you can navigate the system just as if it was a Wii Remote. However, to be honest, at this point I would rather just use a Wii Remote in any situation that this has tried to emulate it. If the Wii Remote mode is a bust on this controller, what about the Classic Controller mode? In some respects, the Classic Controller mode redeems this as a viable control option, especially if you plan on playing Super Nintendo games, as the button layout will line up correctly. However, you're still faced with all of the generic issues like button throw and D-pad lean. All in all, this controller is all show and no go. I really wanted to love this thing. I mean, just look at it. Anyone who grew up in the Super Nintendo era couldn't argue that this thing evokes all kinds of nostalgia, all while looking like a perfect modern day controller. Once you get past the glitz and the glam of reliving your past, though, all you're left with is a cheap third-party controller. If it's nostalgia you're looking for, just bust out your Super Nintendo, sit on the floor in front of your TV, and have a ball. Don't have your Super anymore? You could always grab a USB Super Nintendo controller off Amazon and fire up an emulator for a little bit. But if it's a controller for playing classic games on the Wii or the Wii U, stick with the official Classic Controller Pro. It may not look like much, but at least it performs like advertised. If you would like to watch the controller in action with Wii U and Wii games, I'll have a second video up on our channel, FistFullofPotions, here soon. Subscribe at the top so you don't miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.